Hey, hey, hey. I'm your humble host, Fizz Music, and this right here is Urban Politics. I want to thank you all for liking and subscribing, liking and subscribing. As soon as you have a chance, please like and subscribe, like and subscribe. YouTube, Urban Politics, Fizz Music, where politics lives. Without further ado, though, I want to jump right into this like a car and drive. There's all types of tasty and delicious politics to sink our teeth into. Let's number one. Let's go ahead and start with something interesting that happened not too long ago. I was tripping off of it, and I said this might be a new tactic to deal with the GOP. Just make sure to write bills that are long and confounded, and they won't read them. Now, believe it or not, that's been a political tool for years, right? Throwing so much gobbledygook in something that no one wants to read it or really see what it's about. So, in Minnesota, these Republicans passed a bill without fully understanding it. The bill made some forms of marijuana legal. It had to do with all types of like what the Delta. What is it? It's a Delta with carbon atoms, and which weakens the weed and makes it or can make it stronger, weaker, and it's all this other stuff. I mean, it's really technical. It's really scientific. No Republican took the time to read it. They just went ahead and signed it, thinking that if anything, it was stopping, marijuana or keeping marijuana away from people. When this was kind of actually broadening access of some marijuana to people. So some Republicans wanted Democrats to repeal it, but with this, you snooze, you lose. Are you serious? And that's exactly how the Democrats in Minnesota acted. They were like, no, you signed to pass it, we're passing it, moving on. If you want to come back to this later, we can do that, but you definitely should have read it before you signed it, and we passed it. But I mean, this might be a new tactic, like I said, of dealing with the GOP. And then that's my thing, too. Do the Republicans of the GOP ever read anything? When Obamacare was out there, right, the American Care Act, some of y'all know it as Obamacare, the American Care Act. A lot of Republicans were saying, "Oh, this thing shouldn't pass," and who wants to deal with this thing, and who wants to read that bill? Oh, that bill is so long. Who wants to read that bill? And I'm like, what? Aren't you guys lawyers? Ain't that what most of y'all do anyway, is read paperwork all day? And they had the nerve to be going on and on about this bill or whatever. Or even when we went to war in Iraq, remember it was, they talked about shock and awe, but they talked about how they didn't read the legislation. They didn't read the bill. Said it was too long to read. And then the leader of the GOP at this moment right now is who? Lord King Trump. And that guy has went on record as saying that he doesn't read and he doesn't like to read. So that makes you wonder about the GOP. It makes you wonder about Republicans. Now, back in the day, they brought us some of our greatest legislation. Some of our greatest political minds were Republicans. But these days, things have changed, and I really got to wonder about that party. It's kind of looking like the party of Idiocracy. You ever seen that movie? If you haven't, Google that when we're done here. Idiocracy. And that's kind of what the 2022 Republican Party reminds you of, and it's a sad state to see them in. But that's interesting how they just straight up didn't read it. Ain't read it. So there you go. Passing legislation, you don't even take the time to read it. And reading is fundamental, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? So that TI is what a TI is. Moving on, I want to talk about the 2024 election and some recent polls that may surprise you. They surprised me. Now, as of 3 months ago, things were not like this, but the winds of change are blowing, and we'll talk about why, right? But let's get on into it. Check this out. Gavin Newsom, who is the Democratic governor of California, and Joe Biden, who is the Democratic president currently, they have higher approval ratings. They're more popular than Trump, who is the ex-president, who was a Republican, and DeSantis, who is the governor of Florida, who is a Republican, who's kind of like a Trump protege. Kind of like. He is a Trump protege. He's been doing all these things to get in Trump's good graces. When he was running for governor of Florida, he had his little baby, like an infant, in a Trump onesie. He was reading a book to his toddler child about building the wall. This guy is some piece of work. DeSantis, he's off the chain, but he has been a Trump protege. He is a Trump protege because he's courting that base so tough. He is so withholding by that base, and so with all that said, listen, he signed a bill saying that all well, now you would ask yourself, let me backtrack a little bit, I want to get ahead of myself. You might ask yourself, why as of late would DeSantis and Trump be more popular than, excuse me, why would Biden and Newsom be more popular than Trump and DeSantis? Here's some reasons why. DeSantis recently has signed a bill saying that all professors have to tell him their political views as well as register them with the state upon seeking employment. Really? Yeah. This guy that don't say gay bill, we all know about that, how, teachers can't even talk about, gay issues or trans issues or anything like that in a school. They have to act like the LGBTQ community doesn't exist. Getting into a fight with Disney over that don't say gay bill and trying to take Disney's rights and all that and putting more of a burden on Florida and having to retract that and backtrack that. Critical race theory, which isn't even being taught in high schools, but he's fine to sign legislation saying that it will never and should never be taught in high schools. What are you afraid of, DeSantis? What are you afraid of, GOP? We've already talked about it. Perpetuating the big lie. Coming after people for wearing a mask. The list goes on and on and on and on. DeSantis has not been doing himself any favors. So if he would ask himself, why am I unpopular? It's probably a lot of this stuff. Now, he's popular with that base. I guarantee you, Republicans, and specifically Republicans in Florida, I'm sure they're extremely happy with DeSantis. They're like, DeSantis is our man in 2024, but that's not helping him in a general election. That's not helping him in the horse race. And there was always a time in politics, even sometimes now you'll hear where they'll talk about the candidate making a pivot. Now they're pivoting. So they're saying when you're going through a primary, if you're on the right, you want to be far to the right in that primary. Once you get out of that primary, then you want to pivot to the middle and be a little more of a centrist candidate, right? Those days are kind of going, because these days when you say something, everybody saw it on YouTube, everybody saw it on Twitter, everybody talked about it, and it's kind of hard to change your position middle stream these days because there's so many eyes on it. So many people know about it. There's been TikToks made about some stupid comment you made months ago about how you feel about something. You can't change it now. So there's that. Now, this might be some of the reasons, though, that people are just so in love with Mr. Newsom. He signed a bill putting $100 million towards making insulin affordable. It'll be manufactured in California, so that'll mean jobs for California and lower costs for insulin. 77% of Americans think insulin should be capped. I agree with that. Insulin is a life-saving drug. Why is it that sometimes it costs $200 and $300 to get? Where there's a lot of stuff behind that. There is a, I think, woman who is involved with the reason why insulin is so high. You can Google that. I don't have time to go into it now, but that is ridiculous. And the fact that this guy, a governor, said, hold up, what do the people here in California need? How can I make a difference in their lives? This insulin is huge right here. If you're diabetic, you need that insulin. So the fact that this is going to bring down the price of that and make it more accessible, that's huge right there, man. That's what a governor is supposed to do, right? So lately, though, Mr. Newsom, he's obviously making a bid for president in 2024. That's obvious. So he's been doing some things, and really hats off to him, man, because, he's going right into the line of fire. He going guns a-blazing. He went right into it, right? So he's been on Truth Social, which is Trump's social media outlet, which even as of late, he hasn't been messing with either. They said he stepped down from the board because I guess Truth Social is about to be indicted by the Department of Justice. You can Google that. Don't have time to go into it, but there's that. But anyway, everybody knows that Truth Social is related to Trump, and that's his outlet that he owns a piece of. And Gavin Newsom has been on there as of late, distinguishing himself from other governors, specifically other governors who happen to be Republicans, right? So there were some things that he said. I think I saw like a TikTok or something like that they showed on the news, and some of the stuff that he said was true. Some of it was not true. Some of it he did what politicians do. They leave nuances out because that nuance wouldn't fit their narrative as well. So let's go through some of the things that he said. Check it out. Number one, he said blue states have the highest GDP growth. That's just not true. And you would want it to be, and you would think it would be. It is not true. That's just not true. Google it, ladies and gentlemen. I Googled it hours ago, so I know this is real numbers in real time, and that just ain't true. Red states have the highest rates of gun violence. Well, that's true. But you didn't need any stats to tell you that, right? Because red states are ran by what? Republicans. Republicans are usually what? People who support guns or support the NRA. Why? Because they get huge checks from the NRA. That just is what it is. Now, are there Democrats who get huge checks from the NRA? Of course there are. The NRA is making it rain. They got money all over the place. But 9 times out of 10, some of your biggest donations go to Republicans. So in a red state, and that's what I mean, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, if you're not a political thinker like I am, a political talker like I am, when I say a red state, that just means a state that is controlled mostly by Republicans. A blue state, you guessed it, is a state that's controlled mostly by Democrats. That's all that means. So a lot of your red states, they're going to be gun states because, you know, Republicans are gun people, right? They love their country, their God, and their guns. And you won't take them, my God. So there you go. So red states, you already know that. They're going to have higher rates of gun violence because they got more guns, tons of guns. I got them, we got guns, in the words of the guru. So there it is. Here's another point that he made, third point. He said 14 states with the highest COVID death rates are red states. That is not true. It's not true, ladies and gentlemen. This is not true. Now, here's the thing. The highest two are California and New York. The rest are red states. So he wasn't lying, but he just left out this caveat that I'm about to explain to you. So here it is, right? Think about it. The highest two states, or the two states with the highest death rates are California and New York. Well, who has a ton of people in them? California and New York. California is a big state. If you see it, it's just a lot of area. There's a lot of people who live in California. Too Short is a rapper. I know you've all heard of him. Too Short used to talk about going gold only in LA. E40 has sold millions of albums only in California because California is so big and they said there's so many hip hop heads that they could do that. So California is a big state. You can understand why COVID deaths there will be high. They got a whole lot of people. New York. New York? Are you serious? Tons of people in New York. All the time, every day. I had read a statistic years ago. It's probably double and triple this now. But they had said there were 8 million people. There were 11 million people in New York during the day and 8 million at night. Because they said, some of those millions would leave New York and go to the different places around New York where they live and stuff like that. And a lot of those people just come to New York for business and such. So think about that. That's a whole lot of people. A whole lot of people who can catch COVID and die. So there you go. So that would make sense for that, but he didn't say that. He's just going to throw it out there. The 14 states with the highest COVID death rates are red states. Because that sounds good, right? If you're a Democrat, it feels real good to be able to say that, yeah, those people on the right have been COVID deniers. And they've been hating on people for wearing a mask. And that's the reason why all the people in their states are dying of COVID. It's not that simple, ladies and gentlemen. The devil's in the details, and we got to do the knowledge to the details. Moving on, another point that he made, this was interesting, said Florida death rates are 52% higher than California. Once again, this should not surprise anybody. Why? Who is the governor of Florida? DeSantis. And we just talked about how he been acting a fool, acting a monkey, hating on teenagers for wearing a mask because they don't want to get sick and catch COVID, not doing anything to save his constituents' lives because he want to be all up Trump's and be on his team so tough that he would risk the lives of Floridians. But he did that. He did that at a 52% higher rate. And in California, Newsom, he's a Democrat, so he wasn't on none of that. You know what I'm saying? He had people wearing masks and they were social distancing and all that other good stuff that, you know what I'm saying, the rest of us know that you need to do. So, I mean, that just is what it is, and the numbers don't lie. So, you can understand that. You can see that. You know what I'm saying? Because the policies of the two gentlemen is what really made the difference as far as Florida and California go. So, there's that. As far as 2024 goes, I tell people all the time, here's how you can think of it. And when just listen. Republicans are involved in culture wars, suppressing votes, taking away people's freedoms and rights to privacy. Taking all that away. That's what Republicans are doing right now. Democrats are passing laws to save lives, expanding voting, and protecting rights. Now, with that said, it sounds like I'm trying to say that Democrats are wearing a halo and Republicans are the devil and demon beasts. Not true. I'm an independent, ladies and gentlemen. I vote the person and not the party. Now, back in the day, I used to tote the party line, and I was a Democrat. My mom is a Southern Fried Democrat, so I grew up for her voting democratically. I always thought I'm black, I'm supposed to vote democratically. That's what we do. I vote the person, right? Because I get deep into politics, no reason I shouldn't vote the person. Because if a person talking right and they walking right, they can get my vote. Because that's the person who will probably do what they say they're going to do before they get the job. So there's that. But with that said, the proof is in the pudding, ladies and gentlemen. Now, a lot of times in life, people will come at you and they always want both sides to be at fault. I'm sick of that. I don't want to hear that anymore. And I've been hearing that for a long time with politics. Even in my own life, I hear that all the time. Oh, both sides are at fault. Both sides are at fault. No, that's not true. That's not true. Okay? It's a binary choice. Why we have two parties. We have a Republican Party and we have a Democratic Party. Now, one party is infringing upon a woman's right to choose. Now, one party is trying to stop people of color from voting. Now, one party is coming after same-sex marriages. Now, one party is coming after interracial marriages. Now, one party wants to demonize trans kids, right? One party is coming after the LGBTQ community, right? One party's doing that. Right? You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. We got two parties. One party is weak and toothless and feckless, and the other party is the Republican Party. And that just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. Republicans get power and they steamroll and start doing whatever they wanted to do. Democrats get power, even if just a little bit of power, and then look at all the pushing that they had to do to get Joe Biden to finally sign an executive order towards abortion. Are you serious? As soon as that little draft was written up with them just poking the bear, you know, just saying, we just want to see what happens if we talk about overturning Roe versus Wade. He should have got up there on the bully pulpit and let them know, hey, do it if you want to. I'll veto it all day. I'll veto it 3 times. I'll do it. You'll be wasting your time. And we wouldn't be going down this road. But he didn't do that. So now after everybody's like, oh, Joe, you got to do something. You got to do this. What's the point of having power if you ain't going to use it, Joe? Finally, he said, yeah, let me do something. But it's still, come on, man. Come on, man. You know what I'm saying? I need to see more. I'd like to see more. So that is what it is. So I'm not, pleased as punch with the Democratic Party either. But I will give them this. At least it looks like they're pushing legislation to help people while this other side is caught up in a whole lot of race wars and culture wars and all this other garbage. Anyway, moving on. Now I want to talk about Democrats versus Republicans in 2022 and 2024 because them is two different things, ladies and gentlemen. Now, just a minute ago, I was talking about the horse race, right? The election that's going to come up in 2024, and that's probably, well, we don't know yet. We don't know. We don't know who that's going to be. We don't know if Trump is going to run. We don't know if DeSantis is going to run. We don't know if Biden is going to run. We don't know if Kamala is going to run. And we don't know who else new might pop up. I forgot. There's somebody who did just throw their hat in the ring or is looking at it. I can't remember his name. I'll talk about him next show. And I think he's a Republican. Youngkin. Is that his name? Glenn Youngkin, I think? Youngkin. I can't remember where he's from. I know you've heard the name. I think he's looking at running for president. So that's interesting. I think he's kind of like a moderate Republican. So there's that. Let's talk about the Democrats versus the Republicans in 2022, 2024. Democrats are outpolling Republicans right now, which is crazy because these numbers were not like this 3 months ago. But these numbers have changed over time. There's been some things that have helped these numbers change. So we're going to talk about that. But it is what it is. Democrats are outpolling Republicans. A Marist poll had Democrats at 48%, Republicans at 41%. That is Democrats 7 whole points above Republicans. That's huge. And these right here, these are scores of people saying who they're going to vote for. These are supposed to be the numbers of who's going to win in 2022, these midterms and such coming up. We got a Politico morning poll. A Political morning consult poll has the Democrats at 45%, Republicans at 42%. We have a Yahoo News YouGov poll that has Democrats at 45%, Republicans at 38%. Now, historically, the president who's in the White House, his party loses the midterms. That happens all the time. If you pay attention, that's what happened with Barack Obama. He won in 2008. Boom, he got there. 2009, 10. people were salty because people didn't come out and vote and didn't give him any support. He got stuck with a Congress that stonewalled the bejeebus out of him, right? So he got a lot done, but there's a whole lot more he could have got done, but he had a Congress that was giving him nothing, and that's what happens. People sleep during the midterms because it's not the presidential, it's not the horse race. Guy used to work for back in the day called it the horse race. That ain't the horse race. You know what I'm saying? Midterms elections, a lot of times local elections, which is crazy because all politics is local. So that's really the most important elections, but people usually sleep on those. People are more interested in the presidential race, probably because they put a whole lot of money into the presidential race. They put a whole lot of money into these local races as well, too, but not the type of bread that they put into the presidential race. And they make sure those commercials are in your face all the time, all day, right? So what's the difference? What makes this political climate different to where Democrats would have better numbers than Republicans just in the last couple of months? Because it wasn't like this a good 3 or so months ago, right? So what's changed? Well, number one, abortion rights. Usually a losing issue for Democrats, but 71% of Americans support abortions. And that's the highest support in history for abortion. So that's huge right there. This is an unprecedented number. These are unprecedented times, right? And then think about it. So 2/3 of Americans support Roe versus Wade, and Trump's appointed judges overturned it. And they were going on and on and on about how Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh were specifically asked that question about Roe versus Wade. Were specifically asked, would you try to overturn it, or how do you feel about it? And they specifically lied about it. But there are no repercussions for them lying, which they knew. So why would they not lie about it? And of course they did. And I mean, even when they were saying that, I knew that was a lie because, like I said, the GOP has been trying to get rid of abortion for darn near 50 years. So I knew that there was no way that they were going to, miss out. A lot of stuff that they're doing, getting rid of same-sex marriage and interracial marriage, they've been wanting to do these things. And now that they have the majority, they got carte blanche. It is what it is, right? So they're not going to stop. So that is what it is. Gun safety, usually a losing issue for the left. But with all the parade, school, church, grocery store shootings, people are fed up with Congress's inaction. Some of that. Let me say that again. With all the parade, school, church, grocery store shootings that we've had as of late, even gun owners are like, something got to happen. Even Republicans are like, something got to give. This is doggone ridiculous. And it is, ladies and gentlemen, it is. You know, we're all living under the gun because of these huge checks that the NRA is cutting to our congressmen and women, and it's got to stop. So people see that now. People are starting to pay attention. Thank God. We might be at the end of the 6-year Trump cycle, right? And I got that from my man Pac-Man. That's a good show, man. That's my dude. I can't take credit for that. I got that from him, and he talked about that. And basically, all the Trumpeters who turned out, because they were turned on by the cult of personality that is Trump, may not vote. He will not be on the ballot. He won't be on the ballot. You know what I'm saying? So in 2022, he's not on the ballot. Will he be on the ballot in 2024? People were saying that he was talking about he's going to make a run, talking about how he might announce it in front of DeSantis' house. But we got to see how things go in Fulton County, Georgia. Because the same sister who coming after Young Thug and Gunna came after them, got them in the joint right now, locked up for their little shenanigans, in her home. Now they're coming after Trump for his shenanigans now. I don't know what to tell you. She looked good locking old boy up. No one else could get to him. Here's a guy who put together an insurrection. These people stormed the federal capitol. You know what I'm saying? This guy has done all this stuff. But what might trip him up is a phone call to Georgia. That's amazing. Watch this space, as Rachel Maddow. Can't steal that from Rachel. But watch this space. Watch the news. You know what I'm saying? Because that's amazing right there. So that is what it is, too. And then I can't leave this out. Blows me away that no other outlet talked about this. January 6th insurrection hearings had huge ratings. People are paying attention, man. They said that thing had millions of Americans watching, and there was new information that came out. So that is another reason why you have a lot of people who are kind of like, GOP kind of sucking. And what would they do? If given power again, you know what they will do. If given power again, we'll be living under an autocracy. We'll have a king, and his name will be Trump, and that is what it is. If that's how you want to live, then go on and vote for Republicans. If that ain't how you want to live, you better stand up and fight and say something and do something. You see what I'm saying? That is what it is. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, that is my time. I'm your humble host, Fizz Ed Music. This right here is Urban Politics, where politics lives. I want to thank you all for liking and subscribing as you do. As soon as you have a chance, take yourself over to YouTube, like and subscribe, Urban Politics. And as always, see you around like a donut.